Hello students and welcome to the lecture. So students, as we know that we are covering the schedule and tribal areas, right? This is a topic on which we have been discussing right now. Within this topic of the schedule and the tribals, within this topic of the schedule and the tribal areas, these all are the subtopics that we had scheduled for the discussion, right? Starting with the introduction part, thereafter the scheduled areas in India, an overview of it, then criteria for the identification of the scheduled areas, constitutional provisions and the governance of the scheduled area, concerns that are related to the scheduled areas, administration of the scheduled areas, scheduled tribes, okay, general concerns of the tribal community, addressing the challenges, significance of the indigenous communities, problems are being faced by the tribal groups, conclusion, administration of the tribal areas. Okay, so these all are the topics that we had scheduled for the discussion. Okay, if we talk about the topics that we have covered so far, we have done with the introduction part, we have done with the scheduled areas in India and overview of it, we have done with the criteria for identification of scheduled areas, we have done with the constitutional provisions and the governance, we have done with the concerns that are related to the scheduled areas, we have done with the administration of the scheduled areas. Okay, so these are the topics that we have covered so far. The topics that we are left with, these are the scheduled tribes, thereafter the general concerns of the tribal community, then the addressing the challenges, then the significance of the indigenous communities, then the problems that are being faced by the tribal groups, then the conclusion, then the administration of the tribal areas, right? So this is the picture that we have created so far altogether. Basically, in this lecture, we will start from where we had left in the previous one. Okay, so basically, this is the topic that we are going to start now. Okay, so far, whatsoever we have done with the two phases. Like, if you will look at here, what you are getting. If you look at here, what you are getting, what is written down over here. Here you will see that there are two things: scheduled and tribal. Scheduled and tribal. Okay, here are two things. So far, whatsoever we have discussed, basically we have discussed from the scheduled areas. Right now, whatsoever we will discuss from the tribal point of view. Okay, because when we talk about the scheduled areas and scheduled tribes, these both are the different concept. Okay, now you will say how these are different, and if they are different, then why we are studying them together. Okay, this kind of questions will be you can say originating in your mind, and this is quite obvious. If we try to track it down, if we try to understand it, then we could understand it from the meanings. Okay, like the term scheduled area is basically used to designate an area that is having the tribal population, okay, up to certain percentage or crossing the criteria threshold. Again, I'm repeating, when we say or when we declare an area as a scheduled area, okay, then basically what we do, we designate an area as a scheduled area which having the significant tribal population or the population of tribals that are basically crossing the population percentage threshold. When we talk about the scheduled tribe or the scheduled tribes, Then basically scheduled tribe is basically it signifies the one particular tribe. So we can say suppose there are three tribes: X tribe, Y tribe, Z tribe. All of these are the independent tribes. What I'm saying? All of these are the independent tribes. These are not the same tribes. Got it? Clear? But all of these are socially, economically backward, and all of these were the aboriginals. So that's why they will be considered as a scheduled tribe. But these are, you can say, different tribes, individual tribes. Now, after some time, these tribes started living together. XYZ, these started living together. Then what it will be? Then the area where they were living, that would be declared as a scheduled area. Now I hope the concept has been clear in your mind. Scheduled area is the area which contains the scheduled tribes and the population percentage crossing the minimum threshold. Scheduled tribes is refers to the aboriginal people who forms a tribal group, and this is usually we use to indicate the individual tribe. Got it? Got the difference? Okay. Even when we were discussing the administration, then when we were discussing the Tribal Advisory Council, TAC, when we were discussing it, so there was a one thing, and what was that? Like the states that has the scheduled area, these states are mandatory, are instructed, these are required to open the Tribal Advisory Council, these are required to establish the Tribal Advisory Council. Got it? TAC. All right. And if the state is not having any scheduled area, but the state is having the tribal population, in such a case, the state is, you can say, voluntary, required to establish the Tribal Advisory Council on the voluntary basis. But for this, the president consent is required. Got it? That is what we had already discussed. So that's how the schedule and the tribals basically difference from each other. Okay, and the differentiation could be made between them. So now after explaining it to you, we are going to start with the scheduled tribes. Okay, this is going to be the topic that we are going to discuss about. Now we will see various facts and figures that might we have already discussed or we might not have discussed, but all the things will taken into the consideration. But before proceeding further, let me ask you a one simple question. What is the difference between the Autonomous District Council and Autonomous Regional Council, ADC and ARC? To answer this question, you guys will have 30 seconds to think and answer. Then I will give you the answer. Time starts now. Just think about it. However, we had already discussed it in the previous lecture. Previous lectures, we have discussed it many times. So I'm expecting the right answer from all of you. That could not be given a wrong answer. And the wrong answer could not be tolerated. That is the short things. Okay. Few seconds are left. Just start thinking about it. All right. The time is going to be up soon. Okay, the time is going to be up and the time's up. If we talk about the ADCs and the ARCs, so the districts that having the huge tribal population, that would be an ADC, Autonomous District Council. Okay, so Autonomous District Council is totally a broad concept that covers the group of tribes residing in the district, and basically that is having the more power. Okay, whereas the next is the ARC, Autonomous Regional Council. The Autonomous Regional Councils are the narrow concept. Why? Because instead of governing the entire district, that is governing the particular region where the scheduled tribes are living in. All right. Even in the powers, the ARC, the Autonomous Regional Council, comes lower than the ADC, the Autonomous District Councils. Got it? Now this is the thing. Scheduled tribes in India. Scheduled tribes in India, the STs in India. Okay, so we can say the article 342. The article 342 of the Indian Constitution basically empowers the president to specify the tribes or tribal communities as the scheduled tribes. Okay, so that becomes another important question, like basically which authority in India having the power to declare any tribe or the tribal communities as the scheduled tribe? Which authority? Answer is the President of India. The President of India is basically the authority in the country that basically declares any community, any tribe as a scheduled tribes. Right? And basically through which article it drives the powers? Article 342. Article 342 of the Constitution basically empowers the president. Alright? These tribes are recognized as historically disadvantaged groups. Historically disadvantaged groups that requires the special kind of protection and assistance for their socio-economic development. Like through the word scheduled. Okay? Through the word itself, you could conclude the provision. Like as we know, basically these were the aboriginals or the Adivasis, and these were not the part of mainstream. Okay, and we know the mainstream community was or not was, basically you can say the mainstream community has been consistently evolving since the starting till now. Okay, but the tribal community, okay, and you can say the not mainstream community that was living in the forest, that was dwelling in the forest, that was primitive nature and all, okay, these were historically neglected. Okay, that's why these are the historically disadvantaged groups, and now they could not be brought to the mainstream that easily, so that's why they having the special protection and assistance, so that their social and their economic backwardness could be checked. Their social economic backwardness could be checked. Okay, next is the population growth. Next is the population growth. Since the independence, the tribal population in India has been increasingly census by census. Now, what is the census? What do you mean by the census? Okay. So this is the question. Time starts now. 30 seconds, guys. To explain me what you mean by the census. 10 seconds have been passed off. Last 20s are remaining. Last 10 seconds. Okay, time's up. So census is basically the collection of data that is required to make a demographic profile of the country. Again, I'm repeating. The census is the collection of data that is required to make a demographic profile of a country. In short, you can call it Janganna. Okay, like we know, after every 10 years, we have seen the people come to our homes. Okay, they ask about our family details, like how many people living in that house, what is the age group, what they are doing, and this kind of things. Okay, so that is a census. So census is basically required to formulate a demographic profile, and that demographic profile also indicates the tribal population. Okay, also indicates the tribal population. So that was basically started in the 19th century in India. Okay, so you can say the concept of census was basically started during the British time. All right, since then till this 21st century or after the independence, you can say India has continued this practice. Okay, we has continued the practice and we had organized various census. Okay, so basically if we look at the data of the census, then we can say the tribal population is on the continuous rise. The tribal population is on the continuous rise from one decade to another, from one census to another. Okay, and if we track down the reason behind this sharp rise in the population, if we try to track it down, then we can say this increase can be attributed to the various factors. This increase could be attributed to the various factors like improved healthcare, education, overall population growth trends in the country. Okay, so we can say during the British time, when the Britishers were India, the Britishers did not have any kind of sympathy, any kind of policies for the upliftment of the scheduled and tribals. Okay, the only interest they have with them was to encroach their land and establish their plantation, their factories, and also force them to grow the commercial crops that the Britishers required for their trading. Okay, and one of such crop is, now this is another question, which is the crop that the Britishers requires the most and force the Indians to do it. And let me tell you one thing that basically, let me give you a hint basically. This crop also led to the one of the most important revolt in the country. To answer this question, you will have 30 seconds to think and answer. Then I will give you the answer. Please do not Google it. Okay, time starts now. Just think about it. 10 seconds have been passed. Last 20s are remaining. Last 10 seconds are there. Okay, the time's up. Correct answer is indigo. Okay, indigo, which is in also known as Neil. All right, indigo was a crop that the Britishers required for their textile industries, and basically they forced the Indian farmers to do it for them. All right, and this had led us to the one of the most famous revolt that is known as the Indigo Revolt or Neil Bidroh. Okay, that was the thing. So basically, that was the policies of the Britishers. But due to these policies, what happened with the tribals that they got a fear in their mind about the mainstream. Okay, because whenever they tried to come out from the forest, they found the oppressive policies by the invaders, by the Indian rulers also. No, I'm not saying only the invaders were responsible for it. Some Indian rulers were also responsible for it. So that forced them to live in the forest and never leave it. But after the independence, when different policies we make for them, different policies we apply for them, okay, that basically made them to come out. Okay, and also since the independence, it has been in a practice that we must provide the different kind of basic amenities to the tribals within their area. Why? Because tribals are more connected to the land, more connected to the place they are living in, and it is very hard for them to leave that place and go somewhere else. So if the basic amenities, the other kind of civic facilities would available in the far area, not in the area where the tribals are living, available in the far area, then what would happen? The tribals would not be able to leave the place or go to that particular place where the amenities are available. Or secondly, you can say they, if they move, then they have to lose their culture, right? That is the thing. So basically, this increase can be attributed to the various factors. Healthcare, it means within their place, various healthcare facilities are there. All right. Thereafter, the better access to the education. Okay, it means that many tribal people now are, you can say, able to let their children having the education which were not available for them. And basically, this education helped many tribal children to come into the educational institutes, okay, to study or get the education along with the mainstream students, and then do the work for the upliftment of their community. Okay, and also overall factor, you can say, was also in the population growth trends in the country. You can say not only the tribal population is the one that has been on rise since the independence. Not only this, but also other population trends can be seen in the country, or you can say other segments of the India was also on the rise. Okay, and if we talk about this, then we can say the tribal population growth rate may also be influenced by the factors like the internal migration, like the changes in the tribal identity, and like the improved data collection methods. So, what are the meaning of this? First is, you can say, the internal migration. What is the meaning of this? So basically, usually, as I have told you, when we talk about the areas where the tribals are living in, okay, so mostly because they have been cut off from the mainstream since the starting or the beginning, you can say. So basically, they do not having the access to the healthcare, to the education, okay, to the better kind of dwellings, lifestyle, livelihoods, and all. Okay, so usually what happens, the tribals are forced not by someone, but because of the conditions to leave their place and go to the another places in search of better employment opportunities, in search of better healthcare, in search of better education, and other kind of basic and civic amenities. That is what we call internal migration. Internal migration. Okay, that is the main thing. Second is changes in the tribal identity. What is the significance of this? Basically, when it is a concern, also you can say, when the tribals leave their place and go to some another place, okay, in search of other kind of things like the employment, healthcare, education, civic, and the basic amenities. So basically, they are sometimes forced to change the tribal identity. Why? Because the place where they are living right now, these places are designed as per their natural habitat. They could wear their traditional dress there, they could do the traditional practice there, they could live as their ancestors were living. Okay, but when they come to the mainstream, the urban areas, the mainstream rural areas, and all, so basically these are not so much free to follow their traditional, to follow their culture, as they were allowed to do it the area where they are living in. Okay, so because of this, it is quite seen when the tribals move to the outer places, usually they give up their identity. Okay, because their identity is not so much, you can say, matchable with the new place where they have been migrated. And the third one is the improved data collection methods. Okay, since the British time till now, census data collection methods have been continuously upgraded. That is also provide us the most accurate data. So because of this, the increasing trend in the tribal population could be seen during the times of census. Okay, so students, basically in this lecture we have finished till here. In the next lecture we will continue from here. Till then, revise the facts and figures that all we have discussed in this lecture and keep yourself ready for the next lecture. With this note, let's end this lecture, and what we say thank you.